we on to the dollar. So dollar was very, very weak yesterday, which did knock me off my euro position. USD was very weak. We did not hold onto support here, which was basically my plan for the week, to see if price can hold onto support and potentially see some strength. We're looking pretty weak at the moment. Now, I'm not necessarily looking to short the dollar. I do expect eventually the dollar to be very weak longer term. I do think price can still see a lot more downside in the near future. However, it's not really at an appropriate place for me to short. This is still bullish territory. This is still our last swing low, which gave us the swing to the upside, creating new highs. If I just map out the structure, you can see how price has been shaping up. So as we do approach this low here at 99.5, this is still an area where potentially buyers could be looking to enter the market, and we could see potentially a bit of a rally. Now, I'm not as confident that we will see a swing all the way back to the highs as I was yesterday, as price was still respecting solid support. I was expecting price to bounce from there and see some upside, potentially back to the high. Now that level has broken, I'm no longer as confident, expecting to see this swing. We may still have a bounce, but I would worry that we do come back into resistance or supply on the lower time frames, and potentially see price continue to sell off in that longer term bearish trend, potentially heading back to the lows, into the lows at 97, or is that 98? Yeah, 98. So, with the dollar, I do think we're still in a nice place for a bounce. We could still see somewhat of a reaction, but the bigger move, which I expect to be bearish, may be underway. So I'm no longer expecting that big drive to the upside for the dollar. It could still happen, because like I said, we're still respecting structure, but no longer as confident in that move taking place. Still do expect to see some buyers enter and a bit of a reaction, but I would be skeptical around 100.4. We may put another lower high in. Price might be looking to continue some bearish structure and continue to fall. So that's kind of my outlook now for euro. I have for DXY, although euro would be very, very similar, which we'll get to shortly. Again, I spoke about this area as a really nice area for potentially some selling opportunities for the dollar. If price would be kind enough to pull back to that level, that would be a great place for a short, especially for a longer term swing trade. Because if you can find a nice entry there, you can probably sit in that position for a while, especially if you are going to go back to the lows there. So ideally, that would be the area which I'd like the dollar to get to. But again, as a trader, you got to be adaptive. You got to be able to react to what the market is providing you. And it looks like this is a bit more likely at this moment in time. So yeah, dollar looking pretty bearish. If you're looking to short it, probably want to see some upside back to 100.4, 100.5 for potentially another lower high. One over there, second, potentially might see a third. Euro pretty much the exact opposite, because price did clear resistance, which was the level I was shorting from yesterday. Again, pretty much identical to the same level we mapped out on the dollar. Looking for price to bounce from this area. We did see a slight reaction, but price never really saw that follow through. Then we later went and broke through the level. Again, like I said, we haven't really broke through structure yet. So this is still our last swing high, which gave us this swing low, which does not necessarily mean that we're bullish now. But again, I wouldn't necessarily be expecting price to have this swing anymore. Now for EURUSD, as we have broken structure pretty well, we've left behind some support, which again, similar to the dollar, I wouldn't be surprised if we were to pull back, use that as support to potentially continue back to highs. Longer term, this is still my expectation for euro, back to 1.156. So I'm still expecting euro to eventually get there. I was looking for another swing to the downside before that was going to happen, but it looks like euro is just far too bullish to see that one last bearish leg I was looking for. Looks like we're just seeing that strength with EURUSD at the minute. But again, we're coming into an area of supply, and this is the area which started this bearish move. So I don't really want to be buying into this, especially with a swing outlook. If you're going to enter like on the hourly or the 4 hour chart, I don't think that's the most appropriate place to be looking to enter some buys. But should we pull back, potentially try and find the higher low, I think this is a much better place for a buy. At least you can lock in some gains back into resistance. And if price does break out, we're looking at a really, really big move there for euro. back to the highs there and potentially further as well. So yeah, euro looking pretty bullish to me. Now that we've cleared resistance, technically speaking, we could still potentially sell off because we're still coming back into that area of supply. But like I said, the probability of we're seeing that move is a lot slimmer now. We've taken out this this trend line here as well. So in my book, I do think euro can see some upside. And in terms of an opportunity to buy it, I would wait for something like this or a break and retest of this. That would be something that could be interesting as well. But I like that setup a lot more. Similar to the dollar, just flipped. Pound USD, very, very bullish as well. We did see price continue to the upside and smash into the highs here at 1.345. Now, what's the next step for pound? Because it is respecting that level. In fairness, we did see a pretty nice wick through that level. Price pull back and close nicely bearish. So we are having a tough time trying to break resistance, and you would expect us to. You know, if we do look to the left, we are coming into a very big level of resistance here. So, you know, it's going to take a lot of energy for us to go and break through that level. But do I want to be selling from here? No, not really. I do expect the bigger move for USD to be bearish for the dollar itself. So long term, I do think pound can break through this. So I also want to be a buyer of pound USD, but not at the current price, you know, coming into major resistance, especially when I'm already seeing trouble. When I'm already seeing price have trouble trying to break through the level, doesn't make too much sense for me to be buying pound USD. So really, I don't really see a clear-cut setup for pound, to be honest, unless we were to, you know, push back to lows here. That would be a more appropriate place for a buy, maybe a big double bottom. Well, a long way away from that forming, so I'm not going to speak too much upon that. From an intraday perspective, I wouldn't mind some buys here. Maybe a nice double bottom could look good. But again, we got resistance just above our head. So that's the key reason why I don't like the buys for pound USD. Although euro looks a lot more, looks a lot cleaner because not necessarily coming into a big level of resistance. So there's a lot more room for us to trade into. Pound USD, like I said, I'm not really looking to sell it, but not really looking to buy either. It's just very an awkward place. I think a much better opportunity, especially intraday as well, is if price can actually break through the resistance on the daily chart, then give us some type of pullback. That could be a nice swing for a couple days potentially. So pound USD, still do expect more upside. We are currently respecting key resistance, so watch out for that. But if we can see price go and clear that level, I do like the opportunity for some pullbacks, a retest of 1.344, let's say, and then some continuations from then on afterwards, because I do still expect USD to be weak. Dollar CAD's coming to an interesting area. Looks like price has cleared support here, just about. There are still some levels below us where potentially price might look to bounce from. But again, judging the DXY and what the DXY is doing, I'm not very confident that we're going to see strength, or at least a lot of strength. Like I said, for the dollar, since we didn't respect this area here, which is the level I was looking for that USD strength to come in yesterday, because we violated that level, I think the bigger move now will be to the downside. So if that is the case, then it's going to be very difficult for dollar CAD to rally, unless CAD's going to be insanely weak for whatever reason. It's going to be very difficult for dollar CAD to rally. So I've got a feeling that maybe dollar CAD might be on its way to the downside now, back to lows. Now, is there a good opportunity to short it? Not really. This is not really the appropriate place where you want to be looking to sell dollar CAD. If anything, you want to see a bit of a push to the upside, back into resistance. There we can plot some trades from there. More appropriate places for some entries and some stop losses. And of course, increase your risk reward as well if you're looking for the big swing. So dollar CAD, not really respecting support. There is a level of support down here as well, which we could react from. That could be a nice trade, maybe just for reaction. I wouldn't look for a massive continuation anymore. I think that looks not likely at this moment in time, unless maybe some major news comes in for dollar. I don't see it happening. So with USD CAD, I do think price is going to probably make its way back to lows. So in terms of finding a good trade for that, at the moment, something like that would look good. Maybe possibly a retest, of the level here could look good, but I'd wait for a much larger breakout first, then some pullbacks to short. At this moment in time, 1.4 retest of that zone would be the best. Aussie dollar, just sideways movement. Not a lot to get from Aussie dollar, to be honest, with the current price action. I've talked a lot about this ascending channel. It's slow, corrective. I'm very bullish on Aussie dollar. I do think the bigger move is to the upside with this one, but I'm just finding it very, very difficult to find some clear-cut opportunities to trade it. I've talked about this area here. If price could be kind enough to get back to 0.625 or in and around that area, I'll be more than happy to try and find another higher low to buy it back up again. But yeah, I'm not too sure we get there, especially if USD is going to be weak. That could just keep pushing Aussie to the upside potentially. I mean, we're very corrective, very fatigued, so I still do expect that move. But if USD is weak, it's just going to be difficult for us to see that, especially if Aussie gains some strength as well. Maybe we just break to the upside with some momentum. But the key thing I'm trying to get home is that I'm not really seeing much of an opportunity inside of the range / ascending channel we're trading in. So I'm really just staying away from price action until things clear up. Until we see some momentum to the downside, I can find some longs, or we break to the upside, maybe break some structure as well with it. Maybe something like that could be interesting for a trade. But in that current area, I'm not seeing much at all. As the USD looks a little bit cleaner. I've talked about some buys if we could approach support again. I would like the look of that. We've got some key resistance just below us, which will be turned support. Again, prior resistance there. There's the breakout. Now looking for the retest for continuation. So very bullish on the ends of the USD as well. If we could see a push lower, that'd be great. Take out some of those weaker lows to our left there. Potentially see a reaction off that. I think that would be a great place for a buy for ends of the USD, and naturally targets back to the high and potentially further as well. So still very much bullish on ends of the USD. Very nice impulse to the upside. Just looking at this as somewhat of a correction, bull flag, if you will. Bull flag pattern. So there's your impulse, there's your correction. Now expecting the continuation to the upside. So very, very bullish on ends of the USD. This I can actually see a decent setup. Just need to see if price can actually get there. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, looking for more upside, and I do think price is likely to push back to highs there at 0.60200. And then, of course, gold. Last time I checked, gold was looking pretty bullish. Yes, it is. So I think there's some nice buys now for gold, actually, because we're seeing some intent now. We're seeing some momentum. We've got these higher lows here, 1, 2, 3. I've spoken about the larger descending channel for gold. We had these lower highs and these lower lows. Of course, we had the retest, the prior resistance to our left here, which held up pretty well. Price had a nice rally through that. So now we've left behind some really decent structure on the lower time frames. If I drop to the hourly chart, I think that's a very nice place for a buy. If we can pull back, respect that area, potentially try and find the next higher low in this sequence, I think that's a great place for a buy. And then, yeah, looking around that upper channel area for targets, because there is that possibility we do form a lower high and come back down again, because gold is still bullish. It's still in an uptrend as a whole, but we are seeing some red flags. The fact that we didn't create a higher high with this move is a sign that potentially the bulls are weakening. Maybe we might go for a bigger retracement soon. So I would be wary at the top end of that channel. But if the trend is going to continue, possibly this might be a big bull flag for gold, and possibly we break out with some momentum, with some violence there. So there is that possibility for gold to really rip to the upside if it really does want to. So that's why I like the buys here. Still following the trend. You know, it's still the best way to kind of look to approach gold. And then maybe there might be some shorts here if we start to struggle. Maybe we see signs of a low high forming. Maybe there might be a sell on the way back down. But for now, this is the setup that makes the most sense. And at least looking for a push into the upper channel around 33.60. Silver, last time I checked, was looking remotely bullish as well. I wonder, are we kind of breaking out of this kind of triangular pattern here with this support area and the lower highs from that trend line? Is price breaking out? It looks as if that's the case. There is some resistance just above our heads, which I suppose might be causing a little bit of friction. But let's say if silver can break through that, then yeah, I would say we've got a breakout on our hands, and possibly some retests on the lower time frames could look good. And that, if that's the case, then I'll look for silver to approach resistance here again at 34.5. So yeah, silver's looking a bit better now. We're seeing some momentum. It's been very, very sluggish inside that range. I haven't really been interested to trade it. I've wanted silver to actually drop lower so I can pick it up at some better prices. But it looks like some strength has been injected into the market, and we're looking pretty bullish now. So if we can clear that resistance at 33.21, I think that would be a great place to be looking for a retest of on the flip side and take some buys. And again, I do expect silver long term to go through these highs here and a lot further. Possibly this might be a big kind of consolidation for us to see that move maybe. So I just haven't found a good setup to trade silver, so I haven't really been focusing on it much. But looks like some momentum is entering the chart.